This is the reading from the book A Step-by-Step Guide to Underwater Video by John Boyle. And I'm going to jump straight to the third chapter, getting started. Why are you doing this? What is your aim in getting involved in underwater video? These are the questions that you must answer before investing in underwater filming equipment. For most people, the answer will be to take home images from diving trips to remember the dives and maybe share with your friends. You're doing this just for fun. When you get home, you plan on doing nothing with the camera tapes except having an occasional look at them to bring back the good times. If that is your intention, then that's great. Too often, everything we do has to have a purpose. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this, with just taking images for the pure joy of doing so. There is no such thing as wasting film, provided you got pleasure from shooting it. Sometimes when working professionally, it is easy to forget this fact. When on an assignment, it's always pressure, whether real or self-imposed. Get in the water as often as you can for as long as you can in the hope of getting that perfect image or capturing that unusual behavior. It was only recently on a trip to Indonesia with no mission and no film project to work for that I rediscovered taking shots purely for fun. Shots I will never use commercially, but that give me a lot of pleasure to take. Sitting down by anemone for a whole dive, watching the behavior patterns of its residents, an anemone fish, shrimp, porcelain crab, watching them feed, mate, care for their eggs, observing the interaction between the different species. This is what filming does. It focuses you. One diver was adamant that she would never take a camera underwater because she would be preoccupied with filming and would miss too much. I lent her a spare housing for a couple of dives, and she has now bought herself a housing. Because quite the opposite to what you may expect. Far from distracting you from what is underwater. When filming, you tend to spend longer with the subject and as a result, see more behavior, observe more, and so learn more about the underwater than if simply swimming about. The camera makes you stay longer, and as a result, see things that you would just have swum past unaware. Few people would spend a whole dive alongside a small coral head in 5 meters of water. However, I've often done that in order to get a shot of a specific creature, and the longer I stayed and the more I started to see, and the more I realized that what had at first appeared an uninteresting lump of coral was in fact a thriving and fascinating undersea community. Maybe you are a little more ambitious and plan to edit the tapes into a short film to show to friends, the dive club, or give presentations locally. You may plan to post the clips on your website. Maybe you want to go one step further and try to build up a library of footage in the hope of selling shots from time to time. You may be aiming to achieve a level of ability that enables you to offer to do promotional films for dive operations, hotels and liveaboard dive boats in return either for payment or free trips. You may be a dive shop or instructor considering filming your divers and selling them videotapes of their dives with you. This can turn into a very lucrative sideline and quickly repay the investment in the equipment. You could be planning to produce a film for entry into film contest on a purely amateur basis. Or maybe you would like to have a go at putting together a film or video for commercial reasons. Whatever your intentions, there have been substantial technological advances over recent years, and the excellent quality equipment is available at very reasonable prices. The first decision to be made is how much to spend, and here I have two apparently contradictory pieces of advice. Don't spend more than you have to, and always spend just that bit more than you intended, otherwise you may regret it. In fact, you can follow both rules. Don't spend more than you have to, and always spend just that bit more than you intended, otherwise you may regret it. In fact, you can follow both rules. If you're just doing this for fun, then there are some excellent small housings and cameras that will achieve everything you could possibly need, and you will be delighted with the results that you obtain. You may be able to buy a cheaper outfit that does not have all the features of more expensive systems. You will use it a couple of times a year on your diving holiday, and for the rest of the year, you have a video camera for general use. Easy to use, light to carry and transport. The camera, housing, and accessories will not involve you in excess baggage demands, and are compact enough to fit in your luggage. I have seen people struggling through tropical airports and on dive boats with heavy and awkward full professional film rigs that have been oversold to them by a camera shop. Usually, the equipment is far more than they really need. They would have had far more fun and possibly got better results with simpler and easier to use equipment. If you're planning to do more than just take holiday footage, then always do the next stage up. Don't ever buy something just because it's cheaper, as you will regret the decision from the moment you leave the store. If you really want a particular system, or can see that it offers more than a cheaper alternative, then spend that extra bit of cash. It may hurt at the time, but you won't regret it. There's nothing worse than standing next to someone working at a camera bench or on a dive boat, staring enviously at the housing you almost bought and being told just how good it is. When you have decided which category you fall into, take as much advice as you can. Most cameras and housings have been reviewed at some stage in dive magazines, and there may be reprints on the web. While reading reviews before you have owned and used the camera can be some help, they can also be confusing, as it is only with hands-on experience that the reviewers' comments take on any real meaning. Most cameras and housings have been reviewed at some stage in dive magazines, and there may be reprints on the web. While reading reviews before you have owned and used a camera can be some help, they can also be confusing, as it is only with hands-on experience that the reviewers' comments take on any real meaning. Reviewers may also be cautious not to upset the manufacturer or dealer of the particular model, as they are a long-term source of advertising revenue for the magazine. So the review may be focused on the positive aspects of the product rather than the negative. In fairness, the reviewer may not have worked with the housing over an extended period. In fairness, the reviewer may not have worked with housing over an extended period, their review having been done on the basis of a couple of dives with the equipment. Only with familiarity over a period of time when you try and use the housing in differing circumstances do faults become apparent. Having bought a housing produced by a very well-known manufacturer that had received excellent reviews, by the end of an extended filming trip, I had a list of approaching 20 design faults, ranging from poor quality fittings that simply broke or failed after relatively few uses, through to major and basic design flaws that seriously limited my ability to film in certain circumstances using the housing. When booking ski trips, I have learned to read between the lines of the tour company brochures, conveniently positioned for the ski shuttle bus. Means that your hotel is a long way from the slopes and probably also from the resort itself. Likewise, learn to read between the lines of equipment reviews in magazines and on the internet. More useful is when a magazine produces a table of comparisons of the features and capabilities of similar cameras for a particular model of housing. Careful study of this can be very informative. Phone around as many specialist shops and dealers as you can. Take every chance to see the units yourself. Dive shows are a good opportunity for this. Don't be embarrassed to follow up contacts in the dive world who have first-hand experience of owning and using cameras underwater. Most professionals in the field have been in the same position themselves and are happy to give advice and point you in the right direction. And most of us don't hesitate to do the same before committing to new equipment, as well as checking out manufacturers' websites. Take a look at the suppliers' sites, which can also be very informative. Contact the manufacturers direct by phone or by email for extra information. If a manufacturer is helpful, that's a good sign. Not at all. Not all are. The results can sometimes be enlightening if they can't be bothered to help you when you are about to invest in their product. There is not much hope of get good after-sales support.